From Lagos, Nigeria, this is News Central. I'm Felicity Ezewike. The top stories tonight. President Tinubu demands equity and fair climate deal for low-income and emerging economies. Nigeria Labour Congress threatens nationwide protest over rising insecurity and high cost of living. At least 10 people killed in protest in latest wave of anti-government rallies in Kenya.
In business, CBN debunks claim of hidden charges with Non-Resident BVN platform for Nigerians in diaspora.
And in sport, defending champions South Africa begin title defense at the 2024 Women's Africa Cup of Nations with a win over Ghana.
Thanks for being here. Tonight begins now. We begin tonight at the 17th BRICS Summit in Brazil's Rio de Janeiro, where President Bola Tinubu has called for a comprehensive overhaul of global governance, financial structures and healthcare systems to create a fairer and more inclusive world order. Tinubu emphasized that emerging and low-income economies, particularly in Africa, deserve a more representative global system. He noted that Africa contributes minimally to global emissions, but suffers disproportionately from climate change impact.
Nigeria strongly believes in South-South cooperation. We can therefore not be passive participants in global decision-making. On this financial restructuring, debt forgiveness, climate change, environmental and global healthcare, we must be architects of a future that addresses the specific needs and concerns of youth, which represent 70% of our population in Nigeria. Nigerian firms stand firm with BRICS and stand firm in its resolve to transform challenges into opportunities through climate resilience, environmental stewardship, and health equity. As we approach COP30 and look to strengthen global health system, we believe the BRICS must not only be a bloc of our emerging economy.
Back home, the Nigeria Labour Congress (NLC) has threatened to embark on nationwide protest over the rising insecurity, poverty, and high cost of living crisis in the country. This is as it warned that Nigerian workers would no longer sit idly by while the nation's economy and democracy crumble. NLC, in a communique signed by its President Joe Ajaero and the General Secretary Emmanuel Ugbaja, said the almost 700,000 lives lost in just a year to insecurity in Nigeria can only happen in nations at war. It also warned that when farmers could not access their lands to farm, farming becomes a looming danger. The Congress condemned what it called the government's failure to secure lives and property and demanded immediate action. Let's also tell you that the leadership of the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASU, has issued a directive for all branches of the union nationwide to withdraw their services over the delay in the payment of June 2025 salaries to its members. ASU branches in two federal universities, the University of Jos and Abuja, have already commenced industrial action in compliance with the directive. The president of ASU, Professor Chris Piwuna, who confirmed the development on Monday in Abuja, said what the institutions are doing is simply enforcing a National Executive Council NEC resolution of the union that members should withdraw their services in any month in which salaries are delayed beyond 3 days until the salaries are paid. Staying on labor matters, the Nigerian Medical Association, NMA, has issued a 21-day ultimatum to the federal government demanding the withdrawal of a recently released circular by the National Salaries, Incomes and Wages Commission. While describing the content as a potential threat to Nigeria's fragile healthcare system, the Kwara State Chairman of the NMA, Professor Abdurrahman Olushola Afolabi, presented a 19-point demand urging the federal government to address doctors' welfare. The association accused the NSIWC of acting in bad faith and violating long-standing collective bargaining agreements signed in 2001, 2009, and 2014. The NMA has consequently proposed the establishment of an independent salary and welfare commission for healthcare professionals to ensure that policies reflect both economic realities and the unique needs of the sector. For some perspective, we're joined now by Professor Bala Audu. He is the president of the Nigerian Medical Association, NMA. Thank you very much for giving us your time. I know it's been really a busy day for you. Talk to us really about the concerns that are being raised. New salary structure proposed by the federal government for medical doctors is being described as a potential threat to Nigeria's already fragile healthcare system. Please simplify this in layman's terms. Why is it being described in such dire terms?
Good evening, and thank you for having me. The issue arose from a circular released by the National Salaries, Incomes and Wages Commission, which was supposed to address allowances paid to Nigerian doctors based on application of our basic salaries that arose from agreements in 2001, 2009, and 2014, but in which the National Salaries, Income and Wages Commission failed to address these inputs from these agreements. Having noticed this, the Nigerian Medical Association called the attention of the National Salaries, Incomes and Wages Commission, pointing out where these errors are. Unfortunately, instead of addressing these errors, the National Salaries, Incomes and Wages Commission issued a unilateral circular that did not just fail to address these issues, it went ahead to even erode some benefits that Nigerian doctors hitherto enjoyed. This is all happening in an environment where the Japa syndrome has had a significant impact on our healthcare delivery system, with very few doctors remaining in the country to still cater for the quality healthcare of the teeming population of the citizens of this country. We have since communicated to them our complaints and our rejection of this circular, and have urged them to sit with the Nigerian Medical Association to address these issues so that we can come to a common ground. Nigerian doctors are not asking for anything new. They're simply asking for an application of what has already been agreed between government and Nigerian doctors.
All right, we know the issue is dragging and continues to be, contentious between you and the federal government. But how feasible is the NMA's proposal for the establishment of an independent salary and welfare commission for healthcare workers to ensure that policies reflect both economic realities and the unique needs of the sector?
The federal government already has an existing policy on health workforce retention. And amongst the issues that center around health workforce retention are an array of issues, but let me concentrate on this commission we're talking about. This is a proposal. It's an option. It's a situation where we produce a proposal, sit with the side of government, and take a decision collectively that will benefit the Nigerian health sector and ensure there is significant retention of the health workforce to deliver services to the citizens of this country like we continue to deliver and that we dedicated our lives to deliver.
All right, let's talk about the ultimatum that you have given. The Lagos State NMA described it as not an act of confrontation, but a call for urgent dialogue and correction. What happens after the 21-day ultimatum elapses?
We're looking at a situation where government has already approached the Nigerian Medical Association. We had very robust conversations at various levels of government across all the issues we have raised. The proactive nature of the Nigerian Medical Association, its advocacy, and its ability to produce options and negotiate with government is so robust that we believe the situation is one that can be negotiated between the association and the government to the benefit of the Nigerian citizens and thereby averting any situation of industrial action.
Okay, let's talk about some of the demands that are being made by the NMA. They include the payment of medical residency training fund for 2025. You also want the implementation of the specialist and hazard allowances and the universal application of the CONMES salary structure across all government institutions. I want to ask, though, are there priority areas on this list of demands, or it all has to happen before you can listen to the government?
If you look at our demands, there's really nothing about a priority area. These are basic and fundamental issues. All of these issues have actually been approved by the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. It's only about implementation. So what we are doing is to ensure a robust enough advocacy and the engagement of government to enable the key players play their own role in carrying out what has already been approved. And let me call the attention of the general public to the fact that some of these areas we are talking about, Nigerian doctors have been patient about them, engaging government about them over the last 18 months. So doctors have been very patient. Doctors have employed diplomacy, we have employed advocacy, and we are now beginning to get response to these. And we believe these are so straightforward that government will be ready to fulfill all its obligations. There is nothing new. It's already something that government has approved and that is already agreed between us and government.
All right, I do have some more questions. Let me take this one that came up for you saying, why does it always have to come to this ultimatum? It's either you do it now or we can. If you've been engaging in dialogue and it doesn't seem to be working, what are the chances that when you issue an ultimatum like this, that they will listen? Because, I mean, we've had instances where they didn't.
Yes, what led to the ultimatum is the fact that, like I stated, some of these issues we've actually been negotiating and going to and from government over the last 18 months. However, what broke the camel's back is the recent circular issued by the National Salaries, Income and Wages Commission. And one of our primary demands is that that circular be withdrawn while we sit and negotiate the issues around them. Because the circular was issued unilaterally There was no engagement whatsoever. And we believe that's a very simple thing to do so that we can meet each other and have a mutually respectful conversation that will benefit the citizens of this country. And in all the issues in this circular, there are issues that the government of the Federation has already approved.
All right, this quick one before we let you go. This is for us that are not in your space, and that has to do with a statement by the NMA here in Lagos. They criticized the proposed extension of specialist and honorarium allowances to health professionals who are not doctors. Could you explain this? Why is this a concern? I mean, if you get paid, why are you worried about the others? Explain it to us.
Fundamentally, we're not worried about what others are getting. Absolutely not. In fact, we're encouraging that all members of the interprofessional, multidisciplinary workforce in this country should be given what is due to theirs. And we encourage government to give more to everybody. However, the only point we're stressing is that it should be done across board. It should not isolate any particular group and leave others. And there is a well-defined relativity when this is done. And we are not in disagreement within ourselves, within the health sector. Doctors, nurses, all other healthcare workers are on the same page in this matter. Give as much as you want to give to everybody, but maintain that relativity. Well, we are encouraging government to give other healthcare workers as well, but they should also make sure that they give in the same relativity.
Equitable distribution, basically. Thank you very much, Prof, for speaking with us. We appreciate your time, and we do hope that the government will do the needful soonest.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Coming up, it streams of tributes as Olubadan dies 1 year after his coronation. We have details of this and more stories after the break. Tonight on News Central. A reminder of our top stories. President Tinubu demands equity and fair climate deal for low-income and emerging economies. Nigeria Labour Congress threatens nationwide protests over rising insecurity and high cost of living. At least 10 people killed in protest in latest wave of anti-government rallies in Kenya. Thanks for staying with News Central. The people of Ibadan have continued to mourn the passing of the Olubadan, Oba Owolabi Olakulehin, who passed on Monday at the age of 90. He was crowned the 43rd Olubadan of July the 12th, 2024 by Oyo State Governor Seyi Makinde. Former Governor of Oyo State, Rashidi Ladoja, is expected to assume the role as the 44th Olubadan of Ibadan land. News Central's Victor Mbadike has this story.
The death of the Olubadan of Ibadan, His Imperial Majesty Oba Owolabi Olakulehin, comes barely 12 months after he ascended the revered throne of Ibadan, the Oyo State capital, a position he ascended after the demise of ex-Oyo Senator Oba Moshood Lekan Balogun, who equally died in March 2024 at the age of 81.
Would like to give glory to God for a life well spent. For us, it is a celebration of life. There is no money. He had his 90th birthday on Saturday, the 5th of July. He ascended to the throne of his father, becoming the Olubadan of Ibadan after a 43-year journey. So either way you look at it, from family life to military career to business, obviously live a successful life.
Ibadan-land, an ancient city and historical settlement of warlords, is renowned for its unique system of selecting its traditional ruler, the Olubadan.
Please permit me.
The hierarchical arrangement in the Ibadan system has a two-line approach: the Balogun system, military in nature, and the Olubadan or Tun system, civilian in nature. Now, this innovation became a regular feature, leading to the involvement of two separate chieftaincy lines: the Bale title, which gave the holder civic responsibility, while the Balogun title belonged to the war chiefs.
So it is not a ruling house chieftaincy. It's a republican chieftaincy that alternates from Balogun to Otun. The immediate past to Olubadan now, Baba Owolabi Olakuleyin, was the Balogun of Ibadan land before he ascended the throne as Olubadan. Now the throne will go to the Otun line, headed by the highly respected former distinguished senator, former governor for your state, and fellow of the Nigerian Society of Engineers, Chief Rashidi Adewolu Ladoja.
Meanwhile, former Oyo State Governor Rashidi Ladoja will be the 44th Olubadan of Ibadan land. No doubt, Ladoja's name, more than a supermajority of his predecessors, is a household one across the state, thanks to his extensive foray into partisan politics, serving first as a senator representing Oyo South Senatorial District and later as governor.
Perhaps I need to add that on the Balogun line, there are 23 steps. You have to climb 23 steps of the ladder before you get to the zenith. And on the Otun line, it is 22 steps. So indeed, Chief Rashid Adewolu, Oba Rashidi Adewolu Akamuladoja is the putative Olubadan, or if you like, the Olubadan designate as of today.
But more than just his political background, Ladoja comes to the throne of his ancestors after a lifetime of experiences across many facets of life. In Lagos for News Central, Victor Mbadeke.
Many thanks, Victor. In the bustling heart of Nigeria's capital, a group of fiscally challenged individuals has taken on a task most would overlook: sweeping Abuja's pedestrian bridges. Not for recognition, but for survival, dignity, and purpose. News Central's correspondent, Aishat Saliu, brings us this inspiring story from the streets of Abuja.
From Wuse to Garki, Gwarimpa to Lugbe, a familiar scene plays out each morning. Men and women with physical disabilities, brooms in hand, get to work cleaning the city's pedestrian bridges. They are not in uniform, nor are they on any official payroll. Shoaibu Gadba, a middle-aged man living with a disability, has been doing this for 5 years. It's his choice, his means of survival, and above all, a show of incredible determination.
Ina yi ne kawai domin ba wani aiki nake ba, saboda ina yi wanda ga Allah ya annabi ya bani, wanda kuma ya bani ba kawai ya wuce. Ina yi ne kawai ba wai biyan ake yi ba. Wanda dai masu wuce ne wanda suke bani dai dan Allah dan annabi, haka dai kawai wanda ya ga dama ya bani wanda kuma ragan kawai ya wuce. Ba wai sa ne akai ba, kawai ne sa kai na domin ina yi domin samu abinci da ta ciyar da iyalai nan.
Their presence does not go unnoticed by early morning commuters. Residents who use the bridges daily say their contribution is invaluable, keeping public spaces clean and safe.
Each time I pass here, I see them. I've been reminded of, despite their condition, it is what we call service to humanity. You know, when one can do things even without being asking.
If you see them like that, it's not a bad idea at all. You can help them by contributing in supporting them. Some of them, if they see this money, if they get this money, they use it to buy broom to sweep the bridge. So they are really doing well.
But while their efforts are appreciated, many believe they deserve more. There are growing calls for the government to recognize and support them, helping to uplift not only their lives, but their service to society.
The government should try and do something for them. If they can help them in financial ways for business, if you look around, people are doing business here.
They should create an industry or a company for them, and then they should be empowered within the confine of that industry.
in kuma bata ba mu ba ka to ya zami sai da kai mu ci gaba da idan Allah wanda ya kawo Allah ya kawo wanda ya ba mu ma'asa mu je mu ci gaba da abin da muke yi taimaka ma iyalanmu da kuma matanmu da kuma iyayenmu.
Though often overlooked, their work speaks volumes. These bridge sweepers are not just cleaning, they are contributing to safety and sanitation and to a conversation about inclusion and respect. They may not wear badges of honor, but in the eyes of many, they are the unsung heroes of Abuja's public spaces. With every sweep of the broom, they reclaim purpose and redefine what it means to have ability in disability. In the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, for News Central, Aishat Salihu.
Outside Nigeria, at least 10 people have been killed in ongoing protests in Kenya. It is the latest in a wave of anti-government rallies that began last year. Police opened fire on demonstrators, and earlier, Dr. Aaron Sikuku, a medic at Eagle Nursing Home on the outskirts of Nairobi, said that 2 bodies had been taken to the facility and had died from gunshot wounds. He said hundreds of protesters had gathered outside his hospital demanding to take away the bodies. These demonstrations mark the 35th anniversary of the historic Saba Saba, also known as 7/7 protests of July the 7th, 1990, which launched Kenya's push for multi-party democracy. And from the U.S., President Donald Trump has warned that countries which side with the policies of the BRICS alliance that go against U.S. interest will be hit with an extra 10% tariff. Trump wrote on social media that any country aligning themselves with the anti-American policies of BRICS will be charged an additional 10% tariff. The U.S. had set a July 9 deadline for countries to agree a trade deal. But U.S. officials now say tariffs will begin on August 1. Trump said he would send letters to countries telling them what the tariff rate will be if an agreement is not reached. So far, the U.S. has only struck trade agreements with the UK and Vietnam, as well as a partial deal with China. For this conversation, let's turn our attention to international affairs analyst Alexander von Rugen. Thank you very much for giving us your time. Let's begin with the very basics. What are these anti-American policies of BRICS that Trump is so worried about, enough for this additional 10% tariff? Alexander, can you hear me?
Hello.
Hello, I'm asking, thanks for being here.
In reference to Trump's 10% tariff and how it's going to affect the BRICS, I think much of what Trump has said over the last months has already been effectuated. This now further comment on 10% additional tariffs, the definition of imposing the tariff was if they were going to undermine the U.S. dollar, but without giving any specific conditions as to what that undermining means. I think he's sending a message to the BRICS group that they don't embolden themselves against the U.S. and the tariff policies of President Trump, while he's still negotiating with many different countries on a one-to-one basis. The fact that there was silence at the summit from India and Brazil on speaking negatively about Trump. In fact, they hardly mentioned his name at all. There was little reference to Israel other than the war in Gaza and the atrocities should cease. And there was very little mention of the conflict in the Ukraine with Russia, other than stating that the Ukraine has bombed Russia. And of course, Russia is also a member of the BRICS, although President Putin was also not present at the summit, probably because he has an international arrest warrant on him. And most most prominently not there was Xi Jinping, the president of China, who's never missed a BRICS summit in 10 years. What does this tell us?
But the BRICS countries have clearly rejected the label of being anti-American. They say they are seeking a multilateral world order that Washington has denied and denounced, rather, time and time again. How do you see these distinct worldviews existing side by side?
Well, let's compare it to a marriage. The BRICS countries are married to the West, married to America for trade and dependence on the IMF and the World Bank. But they'd like to have a mistress, and they want to see if they can live side by side with that kind of relationship. Maybe it'll work. Ultimately, they may find the divorce of the marriage is too costly. They want to have their independence because they'd like to get around the U.S. policies of being the global policeman, and also the U.S. dollar being the prominent currency for world commerce and commodity trading. But to accomplish that, you have to have more stable currencies within your own realm. And when you have 7 of the most fiscally irresponsible central banks of the world maybe getting together to form their own currency, your guess is as good as mine as to how that's going to turn out. I think the global trend towards gold is an indication of moving towards more stable currencies. We see that in many countries, especially in Africa now, where the countries are buying up their own gold to prop up their own currencies in their central banks. And I think that's a wise move. Also, there's a trend moving towards digitization of currencies in various countries, blocked by blockchain, which means they can't cheat. Everything's documented. But until that happens, I see the BRICS gaining momentum, but I don't think they're going to be standing on their own anytime soon. Trump needs to keep his negotiation power plays in order. Nobody likes a bully, even when the bully is correct. The knee-jerk reaction is to resist the bully, even if he's talking common sense. Now, the other underlying fact you have to understand is most of the BRICS countries have very high tariffs against U.S. imports, ranging. India and Brazil, for example, are between 11 and 55% on U.S. goods being imported into their countries. So what is the net result of tariffs? Well, first of all, it's the U.S. taxpayer that's going to pay for it. Those tariffs are imposed upon U.S. citizens, not on foreign citizens.
All right.
I would think they might want to call the tariff a new flat tax as opposed to a tariff.
All right. Before we let you go, in 40 seconds, if you can, assuming President Trump's threat of 10% tariff came to be after July 9, what would that, rather, where would that leave the state of play for the global economy?
Could you repeat the question again? I'm having problems with the transmission.
Okay, I'm saying assuming that President Trump's threat of 10% tariff came to be after July 9, where would that leave the state of play for the global economy?
I don't think it's going to affect it much because, again, the taxes or the tariff is being imposed upon American consumers. The whole theory is to impose tariffs to incentivize the American economy to make America great again and move manufacturing that has been outsourced to other countries back to America. Realistically, that may apply to certain industry verticals, but things such as agriculture and products that are unique to certain countries, it shouldn't be applicable. And I think we're going to go through an evolution of these tariff negotiations because America is going to realize there's certain things that can't be made in America. And why should we tax our own people? Unless, of course, the ultimate gain here is to create a flat tax for the government to win in America. And maybe that's the agenda. It's just nobody's talking about it or calling it that.
I guess we'll wait and see what happens. Thank you very much, Alexander, for speaking with us. Tonight returns with business, sports, and entertainment news. To stay with us. A new controversy with the BVN here in Nigeria is causing a lot of concern. I have my colleague Lekon Onobanjo for the business headlines. Is this legit concern?
Well, not really. It's just that Nigerians abroad would be the one to pay $50 to process their BVN while in Nigeria it's free. So that's what they call wala for Ujakpa go abroad. But then I'll just give you all the details in a bit.
All right.
The Central Bank of Nigeria has clarified that recent rumors about new charges for the bank verification number system are unfounded. In a statement, Acting Director of Corporate Communications, Akama Sidi Ali, confirmed that BVN enrollment for Nigerians in the country is free. However, she noted that the newly launched non-resident bank verification number platform aimed at Nigerians abroad incurs a nominal fee of approximately $50. That's about 75,000 naira thereabout for processing. This fee covers remote biometric verification and is significantly lower than the previous $200 charged for obtaining a BVN overseas. The NRBVN facilities actually makes it easier to access banking services for Nigerians living abroad. Away from that, the Federal Bank of Nigeria incurred 536.4 billion naira in electricity subsidy obligations during the first quarter of 2025, as revealed by the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission. This marks an increase of 64.7 billion naira from the previous quarter, representing about 59.16% of the total invoices from power generation companies. The government continues to struggle over 4 trillion naira in debts owed to these companies, and despite implementing a new disco remittance obligation framework to manage subsidies, financial strains persist, affecting generation companies' ability to actually maintain production and invest in infrastructure. When I look at the stock markets now, the Nigerian exchange extended its positive momentum as the NGX showed the all-share index advanced by 0.31% to close at 121,361.87 points, reflecting sustained investor interest. Market capitalization edged 76.53 trillion naira, underscoring a broader bullish sentiment. And talking about sectoral performance, well, we see that the banking sector led the charge with 0.94% in gain, buoyed by renewed interest in Tier 1 lenders. The insurance sector followed with 1.33% in rise, continuing its recent recovery streak that we've tracked for a couple of days now. Oil and gas sector climbed 0.80%. The consumer goods sector advanced 0.24% as investors rotated their divestments and their defensive names. Meanwhile, the industrial goods sector ended flat, indicating a pause in momentum following previous sessions' gains. Well, investor sentiment remains constructive, with market participants tilting towards sectors demonstrating resilient earnings potential, particularly financials and energy. And that's all on business. I am Lekon Onobanjo.
It's all about defending titles. Favor is here with the details. Women's World Cup. What's that about? Africa Cup of Nations, I believe.
Yes, of course. It is an interesting one at the moment in Morocco. And the defending champions, South Africa, began the campaign on a winning note against Ghana. Many more after this timeout. South Africa got the defense of their Women's Africa Cup of Nations title to a winning start as they defeated Group C rivals Ghana 2-0 at the Honor Stadium in Woja in Monday evening. Now the Bayana are class the Black Queens thanks to first half goals from Linda Motalo and Jermaine Sepionsewe before repelling a strong start fight back from the West Africans to secure an important result in their quest to secure back-to-back continental titles. Now the team will return to Group C action on Friday, the 11th of July, with Ghana taking on Mali in Bekan and before Tanzania face South Africa in Waja. Meanwhile, following Nigeria's commanding 3-0 win over Tunisia in their WAFCON opener, Super Falcons head coach Justin Madugu has expressed satisfaction with his team's display, but admitted that there's still more work to be done. Madugu hailed the team's chemistry and discipline, but stressed the importance of consistency as they prepare for their next group game against Botswana on Thursday in Casablanca.
We are not flattered by the scoreline. We know what we set out to do. We have watched the game. We have noticed areas that we also know that we need to improve. So it's still work in progress. Like I said, it's the first match. And naturally, you know, playing the first game, sometimes a lot of factors come into play. You don't expect your team to be at their best playing from the first game. Certainly, because you still have more games to play, the expectation is that you hope to get better in every game up to the finals.
Still talking women's football, Spain closed in on the place in the quarterfinals of Women's Euro 2025 by hammering Belgium 6-2 to continue their perfect start in Switzerland. A brace from Alexia Putellas and further goals from Irene Paredes, Esther Gonzalez, Mariano Gardiante, and Claudia Pina gave Group B leaders Spain a second win by a wide margin after the opening 5-0 destruction of Portugal. Reigning world champions, Spain, favourites for the title, are seeking to move past internal issues from their World Cup win, which cost the team's former manager and federation president their jobs, and win the UEFA Women's Euro for the first time in their history. And now to football in Nigeria. Oyo State Governor Seyi Makinde has approved the dissolution of the board of Shooting Stars Sports Club led by General Manager Olaniyan Akoro in a move aimed at restructuring the club ahead of the new season. Honorable Taiwo Lekon Salami has been appointed as the new chairman. The decision signals a fresh direction for Ibadan-based club as preparations intensify for the upcoming campaign. Salami's appointment is expected to bring renewed leadership and momentum to one of Nigeria's most storied football clubs. And that wraps it up on Sports Update. And Favor Itua. Felicity continues with the news.
I have it there here for the big stories in entertainment. What are we looking at?
I got a big smile on my face. What do you expect?
Good news.
Good news, yes, because Tems and Wizkid, they made the Apple Music list of most streamed songs of all time. And that's huge for Afrobeats, you know, to be on that list. But I'll give you all the details shortly. All right, now let's jump right into it. Apple Music has unveiled its top 500 most streamed songs of all time, and Afrobeats is shining bright. Yes, Wizkid and Tems made history as the only African artist on that list. Wizkid's 2016 mega hit One Dance with Drake and Kala landed at number 6, while Tems secured number 42 for her feature on Future's Wait For You. The list, marking Apple Music's 10th anniversary, is dominated by global superstars like Ed Sheeran, The Weeknd, Drake, whose Shape of You and Blinding Lights at God's Plan ranks in the top spots. Now, Drake also flexes his streaming power with 27 entries on the chart. This milestone underscores the unstoppable rise of Afrobeats and proves Nigerian music is here to stay on the world stage. All right, now Felicity, I'm sure you know why I was smiling, because it's always good to see Afrobeat shine so bright. And yes, I think we're really, making our mark on the world.
Yeah, I'm happy that almost on a daily basis on the news there is something positive to share about Afrobeat. So yeah, it's a week.
So we can say big ups to Fela, right?
Yeah. All right. So big ups to all of them.
To all of them.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Now let's talk about another major milestone, as Scarlett Johansson, I beg your pardon, has officially become the highest grossing lead actor in global box office history, surpassing Samuel L. Jackson and Robert Downey Jr. Her record-breaking milestone comes after Jurassic World Rebirth launched with a massive $318 million worldwide debut. In the new film, Johansson stars as ex-military operative Zora Bennett, taking over the franchise lead from Chris Pratt. With this success, her career box office total has reached $14.8 billion in movies, where she played a lead or lead ensemble role, more than half of which came from her run as Black Widow in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Among the top 5 highest grossing stars, only Tom Hanks hasn't appeared in a Marvel film. While Johansson has said she's done with the MCU, Downey Jr. could reclaim the crown when Avengers Doomsday premieres in 2026. But for now, Scarlett is the world's biggest grossing lead actor right now.
I love to watch her. I'm sure a lot of people do too. So big ups to her. It's a big deal.
It's actually big money too.
Yeah.
Well, that's all we have in entertainment tonight, by the way.
And that's all the news we have for you tonight. But before we go, a quick reminder of our top stories. President Tinubu demands equity and fair climate deal for low-income and emerging economies. Nigeria Labour Congress threatens nationwide protest over rising insecurity and high cost of living. At least 10 people killed in protests in latest wave of anti-government rallies in Kenya. Would love to hear from you. Please send your eyewitness reports to the number showing now on your screen. You can follow us on all socials as well. We are at News Central TV. You can watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, GoTV channel 23, Star Times channel 274, Avo TV, and on YouTube. As always, thank you very much for your kind attention. Have a good night rest.